Hello, and thank you for calling the Millionaires of the Bible series. I want to wish you a great, marvelous, fantastic, and magnificent morning. I want to thank all of you for joining in on this call. I'm excited and delighted for today on this Sunday morning. We are coming into some great teachings in these Millionaire of the Bible series, and I just want to definitely I definitely want to commend you on your being a part of this great journey as we go through week by week, expanding our knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, and learning these precepts and concepts. I'm excited about what's coming. I believe that what's coming is better than what's been. I actually believe that the days ahead of us will be more monumental and more prosperous than the days behind us. And I'm one to actually believe that what we are going to create, what we're going to manifest, will be far more greater than what has already been. And I'm excited about where we are. We're in the month of August, and this month of August is the month of action. This is a month to take action, to go forward. And our word of the month is action. I hope that you have been really getting accustomed to using and actually demonstrating that word action and putting into action your thoughts, your processes, your gifts, whatever it is that you're doing, putting out into the atmosphere, that you are continually to take action in everything. And we are excited about this. We are moving into our fourth week of the Millionaires of the Bible series. Those of you, if this is your first time on our Millionaires of the Bible series call, you can always listen to the previous calls on our YouTube channel, which is the Temple of Enlightenment. Those of you, I am the Senior Director of the Temple of Enlightenment International Spiritual Center. My name is Issachar Bey. And those of you that are want to listen to the old replay calls, you can go there. And also our Wednesday calls. This past Wednesday, we talked about going from ordinary to extraordinary. And we begin to get into that, which was a phenomenal teaching. Those of you that want to go back and listen to that, you can always go back into the archives as well. We are in our fourth chapter here of the Millionaire of Nazareth. It is the yellow cover with the gold star. And these books are written by the great author Catherine Ponder. And we are delighted in these books. We've been delighted in these teachings as we've been learning and expanding. Want to thank all of you for definitely continuing to operate in your millionaire's consciousness as you go through your day, as you go through your week, whatever it is that you are dealing with or creating or manifesting, the different things that you are experiencing in your day-to-day journey. We are continuing to operate and live and operate in our millionaire's consciousness. And I think it's absolutely wonderful, because as we move in that consciousness and we operate in that consciousness, what ends up happening is things begin to move and change in the outward position. As it is in heaven, so shall it be on earth. As it is in our mind, so shall it be in our physical reality. This morning, we're dealing with prosperity from the Beatitudes. The Beatitudes, some would describe as being the bountiful attitudes. And it actually, what it does is the Beatitudes was some of, or which was taught to have some of the greatest prosperity laws in them. Today, what we're going to discover is we're going to look at the Beatitudes, or some would call the Bountiful Attitudes, and begin to really look at how we can gain more knowledge and wisdom of how to operate these laws of prosperity to expand and further us and push us along further. And I think that it's imperative that we really look at this with a very open mind, open heart, open our ears that we may be able to hear something that we've never heard before, open our eyes that we may be able to see that which we have never seen, but open our hearts that we may be able to embrace the truth, the wisdom, the knowledge, and the understanding that's needed to take this information and begin to apply it to our lives. I'm just excited. Every time I get ready to get into these teachings and get ready to learn some new things, it brings great joy, because I believe that the more that we get more knowledge, the more that we understand, the more that we apply this knowledge, these concepts, these precepts, somebody even call them golden nuggets, as we actually bring these things into us and we actually apply them to our lives, things will begin to change. We will begin to move and elevate in ways that's unbelievable. And so I'm excited. I want to do this too. I was in meditation this week, and Spirit told me to tell everybody that now is the time. Now is the time to start planning for your 2020 year, to start putting things in perspective of what you want to see happen, what you want to be, do, and have in the year 2020. That's the word that I got this week while I was in meditation. And also those of you that were in the prophetic encounter, your things are in the mail. You should be receiving them hopefully this upcoming week. So I'll be definitely contacting you guys to make sure everybody got it. But I wanted to say that this is the time for us to move and begin to start planning and laying out the blueprint of what we want to be, to do, and to have in the year 2022. It's time to take action. If it's one thing you may think you want to do next year, or two things, but now is the time. Now is the time. If this is your first time listening, one of the things I would recommend is also that you go back and listen to the teaching of the 4 seasons of life, that we begin to understand what season of life we're in, but not only the season that we're in, but where are we going? What direction are we moving into? So I think it's very important that we start writing down, start putting together a plan, or just some ideas, some concepts of what it is that you want to be, to do, and to have in the year 2022. When we look at the Beatitudes, we look at the book of Luke. Luke gives us the 4 Beatitudes, but most people prefer to study the 8, which were given by Matthew. And you can see that in Matthew, the 5th chapter, verses 1 through 12. So what we will do is we're going to go ahead and look at the ones out of Matthew, because he gives you the 8. We're going to be working with the 8 Beatitudes. Matthew's account deals with it from a very different perspective, but I love the book of Matthew because Matthew gives his account, his lens of the scriptures and his encounter with Jesus. It's very phenomenal. And so, Luke was a physician, so his perception will definitely be different than that of Matthew. But we will begin to look at Matthew because Matthew gives us the 8. Now, these Beatitudes, as I said before, were really, some believe, the foundations of the prosperity laws that Jesus began to teach. It was in these Beatitudes where he began to teach. I actually believe, if you ask me, I know we talked about the first miracle, which is at the wedding, but I believe that the Beatitudes, if to be honest with you, is really the foundation, or really foundational concepts, precepts, golden nuggets that we all need to embrace, because these are the very things that give us the foundation upon which we are going to stand as we move into this journey of going into manifesting what it is that we want to bring into fruition. Foundation is everything, because what happens is there is no separation from you or your foundation. You always want your foundation to be strong. What is it that you're standing on? What is it that you're building on? What is it that you are manifesting on? The foundation is the very thing that upholds everything. It's the very thing that's rooted and grounded. And so I have to make sure that my foundation has been solidified. And in that foundation, me laying the foundation, there has to be some kind of organization and structure by which I'm going to now build, manifest, and begin to elevate and shift my level of consciousness. And it says here, after seeing the multitudes, he went up into the mountain where he had sat down. His disciples came unto him, and he opened his mouth and taught them. Now, it's believed here that the first Beatitude here begins with how to handle a financial need. Now, this was very interesting, because what we're learning here is that whenever a financial need has come into your existence, whenever a financial need presents itself to you, these are the steps that one may take in order to deal with it. Now, the first thing it says is that you should go up into the mountains by reading, studying, meditating alone. And then it says, as it lifts you into a prosperous state of mind, where you should then call your disciples, which are your thoughts and your feelings. So here we have, whenever the financial need comes into us, the first thing we do is we go up into the mountains. To go to the mountains means to go to a higher level of consciousness. You know, as I told you guys before, when I first got into New Thought, I was in a church where the bishop said that when Moses went to the mountains to get the Ten Commandments, he didn't physically go to the mountain, but he went to a high level of consciousness. It really just took me all the way out, because me coming from a traditional church, I had never seen it or begin to interpret the scriptures from a metaphysical standpoint. So here he tells us that we go up to the mountain. This is what happens whenever you have a financial need. You want to go to a higher level of consciousness. And now check this out. Isn't it ironic that you have a financial need? Anytime there's a financial need, the financial need is always in the physical realm. Because we don't need finances on the spiritual realm. We understand that the supply for the financial need is in the spiritual realm, but the financial need is in the physical realm. So whenever a physical need comes into place, always keep in mind that we are now dealing on the physical side and the actual physical ramifications of life, the physical reality, right? But now the steps that are given to us now is that when that financial need has presented itself, the first thing we do is go to a higher level of consciousness. We go up into the mountain, right? We go to a higher level of consciousness spiritually. When we go up spiritually, one of the things that we do is we begin to call on our disciples, which are our thoughts and our feelings, because your thoughts and your feelings, which are your disciples, are what you are going to now teach them on what you need them to do. You're going to take control and begin to teach your thoughts and your feelings, which are your disciples, on what you need to do in order to assist in getting this financial need fulfilled. And then you teach your thoughts and your feelings the prosperous words, the prosperous affirmations. You multiply and increase what you have by doing this. Thoughts and words of abundance will more quickly and surely bring you what is yours by divine right to you than any other method. So as I begin to teach and to command my thoughts and my feelings, which are my disciples, what I need to do, we will begin now to multiply and to expand and to begin to now deal with how to fulfill this financial need that has arisen. Now, the first Beatitude, I'll read it from the scripture and then we'll look at it from a metaphysical lens. It says, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." That's Matthew 5:3. But now, on the metaphysical lens, we will interpret it as this: be teachable and willing to learn and practice prosperous thinking. The original text says, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." Now, we talked about this in the previous week about blessed the poor in spirit, not meaning that those blessed are those who are poor. What it literally means is blessed are those who are humble. Blessed are those who are receptive, who are teachable, who are willing to learn and accept higher, more prosperous ideas. To me, to be poor in spirit literally means to surrender your doubts, your fears, and failure thinking instead of saying, "I cannot do it, I do not know, I cannot see the way, or I will never make it." So when he says, "Blessed are the poor in spirit," what he's saying is, blessed are those who are humble, who are not arrogant, who are not self-righteous, who are not conceited, right? Blessed are those who are receptive, teachable, willing to learn and adapt to higher, more prosperous ideas. People who are saying, "Listen, I want to learn. I want to be better. I want to grow higher. I want to be more successful than I am. I want to be more prosperous. I want to expand my consciousness. I want to expand my territory. I want to be greater in 2022 than I was in 2021. I want to be greater in 2025 than I was in 2021. So in order to do that, I understand the humility that I must possess. I understand the willingness of being able to adapt and to learn. Not to think that I know it all, not to think that I know it more than everybody else and that I'm better than everybody else, but no, to remain humble, to say, "Listen, I'm here to learn like everybody else. I want to be able to learn. I'm not better than anybody else. I'm not over everybody else. I'm not just because I have a title, I think that my title supersedes everybody else's title." No. What I'm saying is I want to be able to be humble enough to learn, to gain wisdom, to gain knowledge, to gain understanding, because as it says here, blessed are the poor in spirit, for the kingdom of heaven, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. I want to be able to have the kingdom of heaven. And in order to get that, I know I got to be humble. I got to be willing to be able to learn. I got to be willing to be able to accept and to adapt, right? Nothing succeeds like success. My success is big, powerful, and irresistible now. My cup runneth over. Vast improvements come quickly in every phase of my life now. Every day, in every way, things are getting better and better for me now. The mark of success is upon me. These are words of affirmations that it's always great to speak because the words of affirmation, what the words of affirmation do is the words of affirmation, they give us motivation, they give us inspiration, they actually give us the ability and actually allows us to stimulate and to control our feelings. Now listen, this is something that we do when we say we're going to take control over our thoughts and our feelings, which are our disciples. And then we begin to teach our thoughts and our feelings on how to think and how to feel. Because in order to fulfill the financial need, the supply to fulfill that need is within. Now, it's just ironic to me that the financial need is in the physical realm, but in order to fill that need, we have to go within and begin to tap into the supply. When we tap on the inner spiritual supply from within, what happens is it begins to now magnetize and pulls in the what needs to fulfill that financial need that's in the physical realm. Let's look at number 2. It says out of Matthew 5:4, blessed are those that mourn, for they shall be comforted. All right. Metaphysically, we would interpret that as saying mourning can be a blessing in disguise, because it causes many to turn to God for guidance and supply. So we see here that in the midst of trouble or in mourning, those of us that are in mourning, it can be a blessing in disguise because we are mourning. We are in a state of mourning a loved one, mourning a situation. We can be in a situation where life has presented us with a crisis and we're dealing with so many things, once again, in our physical reality, in our lives, in our families. And in the midst of that, you would say, how can anything good come out of me being in mourning the loss of a loved one? We're in very trying times right now with COVID coming, still in the pandemic. We're dealing with the different variants of this COVID, this coronavirus, and so many different things, variants of it. And so we were still in the pandemic. People are losing loved ones. People are still losing family members in the midst of mourning. We're seeing here that it can be a blessing in disguise, because what happens is it allows you to turn into the God within you, the God in you, for guidance and supply. Guidance on what should I do? Guidance on which direction, where do I go? Now, I lost my mother in December of last year. And, I tell people this all the time. I'm a very strong person, spiritual. I know a lot of stuff. I know God. I've been to church all my life. But I tell you, man, when I lost my mother in December of last year, it was the hardest thing I've ever had to deal with. I mean, it really rocked me, hit me hard to the core. And I guess it was just because of who she was and everything she meant to me. But at the same time, when we talk about mourning, I could only imagine, the rest of the family. But for me, it really hit me hard. And I would think that, you're older, you've been through these things, you've done funerals for other people, you've been the one that family has come to for comfort, for strength, for prayer. You've been the one that try to lift families up when they lost their loved ones. But here it is now, my situation. And it was very difficult, man. It was I've never experienced anything like that. And then it took me a while to get to understand why it affected me so much, because I know she would have wanted us to, not really cry and mourn over her, but to rejoice. And she lived a great full life and a joyful life. And I know she would have wanted us to rejoice, but at the same time, what she meant to us and what your loved ones mean to you when you lose them, It's and if it's somebody who's great importance to you, somebody who has great lineage and great history to you, and somebody who's responsible for you. So this is mother. So this is the person that raised me, that poured into me, that began to protect me and nurture me. So for that, it was a very difficult time. So I can understand, because at that moment, the only thing I could do was go within. The only thing that I could do, because there was nothing outside of me that can give me comfort. So I had to go within. And it's really an interesting thing when we look at it. When we look at this from a metaphysical sense, the trials and tribulations can be for good when they cause us, like I said, to turn to the God in us for help. When we have to go within and begin to look. Some sorrow expands us and shakes us up and causes us to grow. Through the process of growth, we see the greater good, which can sometimes be painful, but we are comforted. Sometimes we go through things in life that will shake us up, that will, and see, this is something that I've learned too as we're going through this Millionaires, the Bible series, and I said this all the way in the beginning. When we start moving every week after week and we're going through these metaphysical principles and we're starting to utilize and operate in these principles, what you saying when you want to manifest, I just said earlier that Spirit told me that we need to start practicing, we need to start planning for 2021, for 2022, right? We need to start putting the plan together. Now, what happens is, as you get ready to do your plan and get ready to manifest and do what you're doing, you don't know how it's going to happen. Only thing you know is that you have connected with Spirit and you said, Spirit, this is what I'm doing. I'm manifesting this. This is my plan. This is what I'm going to bring into fruition. But you don't know how it's going to unfold. So there's many events, situations, and circumstances that will take place that will be in alignment for you getting and manifesting what it is that you need. And sometimes those situations may seem like they are of a negative connotation, or that they are stumbling blocks, or you feel like it knocked you backwards, or you feel like this thing came in my way, I'm stuck, I can't move. All of these different things, only as it just said, sometimes when we have these situations, trials and tribulations, they come to shake us up. They come to help us grow. When you look back, I always say this before, what does not kill you can only make you stronger. The second thing is, you never know how strong your tea bag is until it's placed in hot water. So you'll look back 5 years from now and be like, you know what, I'm glad that I went through what I went through in 2021 because it made me stronger. It gave me more wisdom. It gave me more knowledge, and I'm a better person because of it. The third one that we will look at says, this is out of Matthew, the third Beatitude, out of Matthew 5:5. It says here, blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Metaphysically, we will see that here, the meek are not weak when they dare to forgive and release the hurt of the past, thereby opening the way to receive far greater good in the present. I'll read that again. The meek are not the weak when they dare to forgive and release the hurt of the past, thereby opening the way to receive far greater good in the present. So, blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Now, this has always been one of my favorite of the Beatitudes, because we're not speaking of being weak. We're not speaking of negative states of mind. Here we are referring to positive, teachable, prosperous states of mind. A meek person is somebody who's adaptable, flexible, teachable. So to be meek literally means to be positive to the good and non-resistant to all else, knowing that this too shall pass. Now, what's interesting is this. When it says to me, blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. The earth is your physical reality. So that means in order for me to inherit the physical reality, that to be meek doesn't mean to be weak. But like it says, we need to be adaptable, flexible, teachable. All of these things will allow us, these concepts, these characteristics, these things that we can embrace and add to our repertoire will allow us to inherit the earth. That because I'm meek doesn't mean that I'm weak. It means that I'm adaptable. I'm flexible. It means that I'm able to be I'm teachable. You know, some people, they don't want nobody to tell them anything. They know everything. You try to help them out. They don't want nobody to help them. They can help themselves. They're independent. You know, these people are not meek. You know, these people are like, well, I'm doing it this way. This is the way that my mother did it. This is the way that my father did it, and I'm doing it. They're not adaptable. They're not able to adapt to change. Well, I understand that your mother and your father did it this way, but unfortunately, we found a better, more faster, more proficient way to do it. And this person says, well, I don't want to do it that way. I'm doing it the way that my mother and father did it 40 years ago, and I'm going to do it that way. They're not flexible. They say, well, I'm going to do it this way. You guys can go that way. And so they become a nuisance. They become somebody who's really been a burden and not a help, not a blessing. And so when you're a meek, you're opposite of that. You are the kind of person that can be teachable. You are the person that can be flexible and adaptable to say, you know what, I can try it your way. I can do it this way. Now, this is the thing, too. When I say that you're not adaptable, you're not flexible, you're not teachable, what that also means is that you are one that does not go within and tap into the God within you. Because if you tap into the God within you, you have to be able to be adaptable, be flexible, and be teachable, and be able to take direction. Because the God in you will direct you. The God in you will give you direction. It will tell you what to do, where to move, where to go. But if you're not meek, then I don't need to go to the God within, because I got everything all together. I know what I'm doing. No. You need divine direction. You need divine input. You need divine strength. You need divine courage. You need divine wisdom. So here we go, just to see how powerful being meek really is. We go over to, I want to take a look at this before I jump into number 4. Now, I talked about inheriting the earth. Now, this is why it's always my favorite, because to inherit the earth is your physical reality. We are spiritual beings living in we are spiritual beings living in a human. We are spiritual beings living in a humanitarian world, right? In the physical world. So we gotta have balance. We gotta have balance. I gotta be able to be just as spiritual as I am earthly. I have to be just as earthly as I am spiritual. I don't want to have an unbalance. So to inherit the earth literally means to claim the dominion that is your spiritual heritage over limited experiences of life. So that means to claim your dominion in your spiritual heritage. When you inherit the earth, you actually start operating in dominion. God says, I created man that he may have dominion over the earth, over the fields, over everything, right? That we have dominion, right? But when you inherit the earth through and because you're meek, you have the ability to inherit the earth. When you inherit the earth, you are now stepping in to take dominion over your spiritual heritage, which allows you to take heritage and have dominion over limiting experiences of life, such as ill health, insufficient supply, indebtedness, inharmony, loneliness, and bring your life into a harmony with true success. This is what happens when you inherit the earth. You take that dominion, which is your spiritual heritage, and you begin to have dominion over everything. My life, health, wealth, happiness cannot be limited. God in me now frees me from all limitation. I am unbound and uncontrolled. I receive the abundant good that is mine by divine right now, and so it is. God in me frees me from all limitation. I'm free from all limitation. I'm in a place now where I'm moving in my dominion over, I'm going to inherit the earth. And by me inheriting the earth means I take dominion of my spiritual heritage, which I've been given dominion. But in order for me to step into that dominion, I got to be teachable. I got to be flexible. I got to be adaptable. I have to be able to be humble. I have to be able to learn how to go within and begin to really operate at that level. I'm excited about when I study stuff like this, because if you actually start applying what we are talking about on this call, you will see your life transform like never before. These principles, these concepts, these are very powerful when we begin to operate and utilize them and apply them to our lives. Number 4, we're coming out of Matthew 5 and 6. It says, blessed are they that hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled. Metaphysically, that would mean those who hunger and thirst after the right use of prosperous ideas shall find their lives filled with abundant blessings. I like that. Let me read that again. Those who hunger and thirst after the right use of prosperous ideas shall find their lives filled with abundant blessings. And so we are coming out of Matthew 5 and 6. Now, some people call it the Bountiful Attitudes, some people call it the Beautiful Attitudes. Jesus is reminding us of the old age teachings that was embraced by the philosophers. The word righteous literally means to mean goodness. Righteous is more than just the right conduct. To be righteous does not mean to be goody-goody, self-righteous, or pious in any other way. It literally means to act in a just, upright, harmonious manner. It is the right thinking in all subjects of life. The right thinking. Righteousness means to be in right thinking, in right thought, in right consciousness. Not just about, like it says, being goody-goody or to be self-righteous. No, but to be in right thinking, to be in right alignment, to be in the right conscious mind, the right thinking of the right conscious mind, to always be thinking upright. When you think, is your mind in your mind, you will produce in your life that which is the great law of life. That which I think in my mind will be produced in my life, as within, so without. The Beatitude here says, blessed are they that hunger and thirst after righteousness. Do you know what that means? That means that I hunger and thirst after allowing my mind to be in an upright thought pattern. That means that I'm not looking to just get anything. I'm not looking to just think any thought or to be in any kind of conversation or to be around any people. I want to be around the right people. I want to be around the people that always think upright. But there's a hunger and a thirst in me. There's a hunger and a thirst in me to be in the opportunity and in the place to be able to have the upright thinking. Because if I have the upright thinking, what that means is that my life begins to move in an upright posture. And so if you're on this call and you're saying to yourself, you know what, my life is not where I need it to be. I feel like things are not going the way it should be. I'm not in the place that I feel I should be in. Things are not happening the way that I need them to happen. And so what I need to do is I need to start thinking upright. I need to make sure that I now begin to thirst and that I may need to hunger and thirst after righteousness, after the right uplifted thinking, to be able to start thinking right, to be able to have my consciousness in an upright posture. Water was a matter of life and death. So hunger and thirst indicated an intense longing for greater good. For most of us, life is as a dominant hunger, an intense urge to experience for more good than ever before. Those who hunger and thirst after uplifting, prosperous ideas find themselves filled with blessings of health, wealth, and happiness. So, when we hunger and thirst after righteousness, we are actually thirsting and hunger. Begin to be hungry and thirsty after the righteous thinking of uplifting, prosperity, and ideas. The more that we hunger and thirst after those prosperous laws of prosperity, the prosperous the money consciousness, the millionaire consciousness, the more that we hunger and thirst after that consciousness, and we gravitate towards it. And now listen, anything that any of these uplifting, prosperous ideas, laws, concepts that we grab a hold of, once we connect with something, we become the very thing that we connect with. So these prosperity ideas are no longer something that was separate from us, but now they become us, because anything we come into contact with, we become one with it. So now when I get in contact and begin to embrace these prosperity ideas, I find that my life is filled with blessings of health, wealth, and happiness. Number five, we're coming out of Matthew 5:7. It says, blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Metaphysically, we would look at that, and it says, blessed are those who hold merciful, loving attitudes towards others. In turn, they too shall be prospered and longly blessed. I read it again. It says, blessed are those who hold merciful, loving attitudes towards others. In turn, they too shall be prospered and longly blessed. This is the fifth beatitude. Jesus is trying to remind us, instead of dwelling on the appearance of man, instead of dwelling on the appearance of things, the outward manifestation of things. Many of us continue to look at the outward manifestation of things. Jesus says this, listen, instead of us dwelling upon the appearance of persecution and injustice of all about them, they could release great power for good in their lives by dwelling upon the thoughts of mercy and acts of kindness. In the true statement, criticism, condemnation, and unforgiveness of both ourselves and others can cause hardship conditions that have to be broken and dissolved before we can permanently prosper. The most merciful attitude you can have towards others is to remember that when their weakness comes to your attention, that they are unconsciously calling out for your blessing. So be merciful. You will ultimately receive the same merciful treatment from others just when you need it most. There is no condemnation in me, for me, or around me. Divine love now heals all my critical attitudes towards others. Divine love now heals all others' critical attitudes towards me. So here we're talking about being merciful, right? Being merciful, right, literally means that I don't allow myself to have condemnation, to not to be able to forgive, not to give harsh criticisms, right, of myself or others, because what that can do to us is put us in a sense of hard financial conditions that have to be broken and dissolved. But the most merciful thing we can do to ourselves and also to others is to learn how to be merciful. Because when we are merciful, that so whatsoever man soweth, that shall he also reap. By me becoming merciful, what happens is when I need mercy, mercy is therefore granted to me because I was the one first that was able to sow mercy. You get what you give. And so it takes us back when it says, blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. There's going to come a time in your life, if it hasn't done so already, where each one of us will need mercy. But the question is, were you able to give mercy and not to criticize a person, not to condemn them, but to give them mercy, to sow mercy? Why? Because we understand that by giving mercy, we understand that we're sowing that for that we one day will be able to reap mercy back. For there is no condemnation in me, for me, or around me. Divine love now hears all my critical attitudes towards others. Learning how not to be critical, learning how not to allow myself to be critical, but not allow myself to be judgmental, to condemn people. Because in reality is this: if you're busy focusing on your life and you're focusing on what you're manifesting and you're focusing on your journey and you're focusing on getting yourself together and you're focusing on maintaining and operating in your millionaire consciousness, we really shouldn't be putting too much of attention into what somebody else is doing. Yes, we are there to help. Yes, we are there to be a guide. Yes, we are there to assist. But we don't want to put too much energy in condemning. We don't want to put too much energy in criticizing and judging, because we need that we can utilize that energy into what we are manifesting and what we're putting into perspective. Number 6, the Beatitudes. Some call them the Bountiful Attitudes, some call them the Beautiful Attitudes. Number 6 is coming out of Matthew 5 and 8. It says, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God." Metaphysically, we can look at that and say, blessed are the pure in heart who always picture success for each experience. Through picturing God's goodness, they shall experience the peace, health, and plenty of true abundance. Now, we see here that the secret for freedom from all kinds of trouble, sickness, inharmony, poverty, limitation of every type is to release resentment, hate, and condemnation of others, and to deliberately begin to see God's goodness everywhere. So now listen to this. We're already on number 6 of the Beatitudes. And if you've been listening to what we've been talking about with these Beatitudes about being merciful, being teachable, being flexible, being adaptable, we've been learning all of these Beatitudes this morning. And I told you earlier before we started that this is the foundation. This is your foundation upon which you're going to build everything. Being merciful, right? This is the secret for freedom of all kinds. Right? Because these Beatitudes, once we master them and allow them to come into our consciousness and we embrace them, they become the foundation. And the foundation upon which we build everything that we're building, our lives, our legacy, our families, our finances, everything in your life is built on this foundation. Now, when it talks about purity, let's look at this word purity, because it says, blessed are the pure in heart. For purity, the New Testament always includes the idea of singleness of purpose. To be pure in heart meant to be pure in mind. For as a man thinketh in his heart, so we see the word heart metaphysically means the subconscious mind. So when the Bible says, so when it says, blessed are the pure in heart, what it really literally means is blessed are the pure in consciousness, the pure in mind, because the word heart literally means mind metaphysically. So we see here that it says, blessed are the pure in heart, meant to be pure in mind. The way to be pure in the mind is to see only God's goodness to do it literally through the picturing of the mind, to picture only success from one situation or endeavor, to get definitive in one's goals about the good one wish or experience in his life, and to behold the greater good being outpictured in the lives of others. Now look at this. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. How do we do that? We do that by literally picturing the power of the mind, to picture your success of any situation or endeavor that you're dealing with. And then to get definitive, to be definite in one's goals, to be definite. That means to be able to decide, to be very detailed on your goals about the good that you wish to experience in your life. And then to behold a greater good being outpoured in the lives of others, which means that I'm working on my situation, I'm working on how I'm going to make things happen, but at the same time, I want to be able to see other people around me blessed. I want to see people around me being successful. It's not just me, but it's everybody who's connected to me. So I want you to take a minute and think about what situation or endeavor can you picture in your mind? What definitive goal or wish that you want to experience in your life that you can put on the center of your mind. I want to tell you something that I found out yesterday that was absolutely mind-blowing, and I'm actually working with this, and we'll give you the results in a few weeks. But I'm going to explain what I'm talking about towards the end of this call. So we see here the importance of working. Blessed are the pure in heart, pure in the subconscious mind, right? Now, when we talk, now what's ironic is this. Understand this. When you start working with your consciousness and your mind, you must always use pictures, because that's how you are able to stimulate your mind, is by operating with pictures. Your mind operates through pictures. In order to work with your imagination, you use pictures. That's why they always tell you to visualize yourself doing things. See yourself doing this. Picture the color, the shape, the size. Because when you start working with your mind, you work with the picturing. That's why it says here to picture yourself being, doing, having. Picture the success of others, right? Because that's how we are able to operate and utilize the powers of our minds through picturing. Number 7 is coming out of Matthew 5:9. It says, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the sons of God." And we see here that metaphysically we can interpret that as being, blessed are the peacemakers, for true success is always accompanied by the peace of mind. The peacemakers shall be called the sons of God, the son of good, since their presence always brings harmony and blessings. I'll read that again. Blessed are the peacemakers, for true success is always accompanied by peace of mind. The peacemakers shall be called the sons of God, the sons of good, since their presence always brings harmonies and blessings. That word harmony. Every time I hear the word harmony, it always brings me back to spiritual beings having a human experience. Not a human experience without the spiritual being, or the spiritual being without the human experience, but the spiritual being having a human experience, the togetherness, the balance. The word peace, for it says, blessed are the peacemakers, right? Prophets and philosophers have long felt that the peaceful state of mind was the remedy for healing the world's ills, from banishing poverty and disease to causing treaties and agreements to be kept and wars to cease. The attitudes described in the first 6 Beatitudes are essential prerequisites for the prosperous peacemaker. They emphasize the power of prosperous thinking, that God is the source of man's supply, the prosperous power of forgiveness and release, that the will of God for man is wealth, the prosperous power of love, and the prosperous power of deliberate picturing. Thus, it is appropriate that this 7th Beatitude on peace should be given toward the close of Jesus' teaching on the subject. So we see here that true success is always accompanied by peace of mind. The peacemakers are those who make peace. They seek peace and pursue it. We see here in Psalms 34:14, it says, depart from evil and do good, seek peace and pursue it. So we see peacemakers are those who make peace. They say that they seek peace, but then they also pursue it. So the peacemakers. Here is another level of the foundation that we see here. Those that will be called the sons of God, or literally, metaphysically, can be called the sons of good. So we see here that we get down to number 8, and we're in Matthew 5:10-12. It says here, rejoice and be exceedingly glad, for great is your reward in heaven, right? Blessed are they who willingly experience the inner cleansing that accompanies expanded thinking, for they shall be rewarded with happy results. Blessed are they that have been persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are ye when men shall reproach you and persecute you and say all manner of evil against you falsely for my sake. Now, what's interesting is every time we read one of these, I want you to keep in your mind that these are the foundations. Blessed are those who will willingly experience the inner cleansing that accompanies expanding thinking, for they shall be rewarded with happy results. The willingly experience the inner cleansing that accompanies expanded thinking. When we go into cleanse ourselves inwardly, remove stuff out of our way, the negative thoughts, the negative criticism, the condemnations, the judgments. You got to realize you meet nobody in this world but yourself. So in reality, those people who you judge, those people who you condemn, those people who you talk about, it's only a reflection of you. Because you meet nobody in this world but you. Then it says, blessed are they that have been persecuted for righteousness' sake. Those that have been persecuted for right thinking, for thinking right thoughts, for embracing the prosperity laws, right? For theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when men shall reproach you and persecute you, and shall say all evil manner against you falsely. When people start lying on you and calling you names and saying all kind of crazy stuff about you and saying, creating rumors and doing all this crazy stuff that's going on, right? All of this stuff happens. Why? Because we are having this he said, for my sake. There's people that's going to be jealous of you because you are expanding. There's people that's going to be jealous of you because you are operating at a different level. You are moving. Your life is operating and moving in a different facade and a different polarity, right? Your life is moving and operating differently. So what ends up happening is you begin to move and operate in so many different varieties of life that we are constantly moving to and from. That's why I told you, I said this on Wednesday's call, that we had a conversation about successful, wealthy, rich people, famous people who after they accomplish wealth, after they get fame, after they get the riches and the wealth, it seems like now they're trying to find God. And one of the wealthy people said it's an actual crisis when you see that happening. He said, because when you see somebody who's been wealthy, successful, rich, and after that now they're finding God, he says that what that literally means is that they literally are telling us that they have nothing. He said they're literally telling us that they literally have nothing. He says because what they're doing is they're saying that after they accumulated all the riches and the wealth, they're trying to find God. They're trying to find themselves. Because we know that you cannot find God until you find yourself. And you cannot find yourself until you find God. Because there is only oneness. So you can't find God and not find you. You cannot find you and not find God. There's only oneness. There's no separation. And so I believe that we are in the day and time where this is one of the greatest times of our lives to be able to operate and really utilize these teachings that we're learning on how to build our foundation. This is a strong foundation to build on the Beatitudes. This is a very strong foundation because it really allows us to move and operate in so many different areas. You know, I think that, you know, when you look at it, as I said, from the foundational, you know, to be able to understand the practice of picturing the power of love, the practice of picturing of prosperity, the power of picturing health, happiness, peace and blessings. It's just amazing how we can begin to get into a place and begin to operate and begin to operate in that level of consciousness. I believe that one of the greatest things that we have in our vicinity as man, as woman, is to be able to create our own reality. I believe that it's imperative that we actually move and operate and utilize these principles, these Beatitudes that we learned today. I think that it's imperative. I think that when we look at the power of these 8 Beatitudes and we utilize them and we build our foundation on them, it's very unlikely that we will not be able to manifest. Now, I'll tell you this. My intent for studying and going over these lessons every week is not for a quick fix. It's not for a quick fix, a little patch up, a little cover over, but this is for longevity. This is for legacy. Because if we're operating and utilizing these principles, we become these principles, we become these things. And when we become them, what now happens is we now move into a place of consciousness where we are now, as those of you will remember who begin to read the book The Castle by Mace, and she began to talk about how she went into a building. A friend of hers, she was going to visit a friend, and she went to go see her friend in the middle of Manhattan. Her friend lived in a penthouse. But when she was walking to the building, people were everywhere, noise, the taxi cab drivers, there was trash all over the street. She said it was total chaos. She goes in the building and she goes all the way on the top floor. When she goes all the way on the top floor, it takes her to a higher level now. So now she's at a level that she has never seen because she came in on the bottom. When she got to the top of the penthouse and came outside on the roof, it was quiet. She began to see things that she couldn't see when she was on the bottom floor. And she didn't hear the noise. She didn't hear the cab honking their horn. She didn't hear the noise of the people yelling and screaming. She didn't see the trash all over the floor outside on the streets. But it was quiet. It was peaceful. There was a different level of consciousness that she had elevated to because she was at the top of the penthouse. And the same thing happens as you utilize these Beatitudes, as you utilize and embrace them, become one with them. What happens is you start elevating your level of consciousness to a place now where you no longer, now check this out. These Beatitudes are, as I said, the foundation. When you get grounded in them and use them as a foundation, it begins to elevate you. Once it elevates you, it moves you into that place where you are now at the penthouse. You're now on the top. And what you're doing now is you are now at a place where you are above. You are now looking down and seeing things from a different perspective. Just like when we first started this tonight, the first thing it says, how to handle a financial need. We talk about going up to the mountains. And so that's just one of the great stories that I've learned from Carolyn Mace with the Castle. It's a great book. If you've never heard about Entering the Castle, you can definitely look her up. She's a great metaphysician, phenomenal woman. Her teachings are phenomenal. I went to a couple of her workshops many years ago, but she's always been somebody who I felt was very profound, and I would say profound and prolific in the metaphysical genre, and she was always very good. Those of you that felt like this teaching was a blessing to you, I want you to really go back and listen to this teaching and really get down the principles of the Beatitudes. I think that these are so important. These are probably the most important. This chapter probably is one of the most important that we will ever have out of the whole Millionaires of the Conscious series, regardless of what book we're in, because I believe that these Beatitudes are, in fact, the foundation upon which everything should be built on. So we are operating out of our Millionaires consciousness. We're operating under the Millionaire seed. Those of you that want to move into our circulation part, we believe in circulating. That which we release out of our hands, we believe that it will circulate back to us 100%, 100-fold return. We are operating with the Millionaire seed, which is $37. Those of you that want to sow that $37, that Millionaire seed, as I told you before last week, we had a great testimonial of debt cancellation because one person began to sow that seed, and so many other doors and different things are opening. Other people begin to start businesses. I also had a call this week from another woman who sold into us, and she's now operating an online digital business that came to her. She never asked for it. It just kind of came to her. And now she's in a position of learning how to really get this thing going because it's a business that was already in operation and it kind of fell into her hands. And so just so many things that are happening when you start operating with the Millionaire seed. And so we're excited about that. Those of you that would like to sow that seed, the number 3 is the number of expansion. It is the number of self-expression. It is the number of being able to take that which is inside of you and begin to now bring it into the intangible realm. And then we also look at the number 7, which is the number of spirituality, is the number of redefining, redeveloping, right? It is the number of allowing yourself to pull back from I would say from the physical ramifications and pull back into your spiritual connotation. But at the same time, the 3 and the 7 now become the foundation upon which you're going to build and going to make changes that will give you longevity. And so we operate with the $37 Millionaire seed. Those of you that would like to sow that seed into good ground, you can sow that seed today. There are 4 ways that you can sow the seed. The first way is Cash App, which is going to be $, and it's going to be TOESC. And the second one is going to be PayPal, and you can sow it at Issachar Bey, which is ISSACHARBEY @gmail.com. And then we also have Venmo, which is going to be the @ Issachar, ISSACHAR -Bey, BEY. And then we also have Zelle, which is also going to be Issachar Bey @gmail.com. I want to also thank you, all of you, for sowing your seeds. Your seeds are helping us out greatly. We're able to expand. We're able to run ads to get more exposure. We also are still going to do Clubhouse and all those things. We're actually putting that together now because we want to kind of market it and get things going. And then Clubhouse kind of changed a couple of things that they have going on. And then now Facebook has their own version of Clubhouse. So I'm kind of looking into everything and really strategically putting myself in a position to where it will benefit all of us. So we're definitely looking into that now. So, like I said, we're definitely, your donations are definitely, you sowing into us definitely blesses us, gives us a 100% return back to you, because that what you release comes back to you. And the one thing I always want you guys to remember in this day and time, that even though we're talking about prosperity, and we're talking about prosperous thinking, and we're talking about elevation, and we're talking about consciousness expansion and all these great things, let us keep in mind of our health consciousness. I want everybody to make sure that we're still operating and building our immune systems through these times, that we're constantly doing things to enhance our immune system. I'm going to keep pushing it because it's not good for us just to have money or just to be financially successful, but health is wealth, and we need to be building our immune system. So those of you, make sure we're taking our vitamin D3, make sure we're taking our black seed oil, make sure we're taking coconut oil, make sure we're doing the magnesium, the potassium, the selenium, make sure that we're doing the zinc, make sure that we are, those of you that are getting the cinnamon sticks with the ginger and making the tea, those things that we can do to remove mucus, elderberry tea or the elderberry syrup that they make, sea moss, so many different things that we can take to actually strengthen and build our immune system, whether you're vaccinated or not, so that we can continue to not only strengthen our consciousness, but strengthen our health consciousness. It's not just about money, but it's about health. Health is wealth. And so I want to make sure that all of us, even though we're operating in the millionaire's consciousness, we still got to be healthy. And like the scripture says, I wish above all that you prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prosper. We got to be in good health. And so we want to make sure that we are continuing to be health conscious. This week, let's make sure that we're taking action. Let's make sure that we are getting ourselves in the position to operate in setting up and planning our 2022 year. Let's start planning and putting things in perspective. The first quarter, start of the year, what are we going to be doing? What are we doing the second quarter of 2022? What are we going to be doing in the third quarter of 2022? Let's start putting in perspective things that we want to accomplish. Let's put some timelines on it. Things change. We're not writing anything in stone, but let's start putting some things on paper. Let's start utilizing and getting things in perspective, because now when we start putting things on paper, we're telling the universe that we're serious. We're telling the universe that we're not playing, that this is something that we're getting ready to manifest and we're moving towards. So now we need things to start happening, and events and situations and circumstances to start working with us. So I'm excited about 2022. I'm looking forward into some great things and some opportunities and expansions and different things. So let's continue to do that. And as we get ready to move into this next dimension, I believe that what's coming is far better, far greater than what's been. And so this week, we will continue to take action as we move out of this month into September. When we talk next week, I'm going to be in meditation all week. I'm going to be in my meditation prayer room, getting the directions of what happens in September. What's the word? What direction are we moving in September, right? So I want to definitely commend you on those of you who have been faithful, those of you who have been consistent, and I want to thank you because it's definitely been a great help to me, and all of you who jump on the calls, all of you who listen on YouTube, those of you that share it, those of you that constantly get people to come on the calls. So I just want you to let you know that I appreciate you personally, and I thank you, and I let you know that I don't take anything for granted. So I just wanted to let you guys know that, and I love you all. So thank you once again for all of you who have been supportive and blessing to everything that we do here. And we hope that these teachings will continue to bless you and guide you and allow you to create your own reality. And before I leave, I'd like to say this one thing. Your destiny is not a matter of chance, but it's a matter of choice. Thank you. And until we meet this Wednesday, see you.